there's a lot of things we can talk about. I mentioned that we could talk about my recent book on transhumanism.
All right, let's go and do that.
Okay. Should I just jump right in then?
Yes. Again, I can't interrupt you. I don't have notes.
Oh,
so, yes, jump in there.
Okay. Well, so my recent book is, I've written, it's now my 5th book. So previous to that, The Dying God, A Hidden History of Western Civilization, which is about the basically exploding the idea of a history of Western civilization as a modern creation and showing the true occult history that was very influential in its development. Second book was Terrorism and Illuminati, which is very topical today because it explores the Masonic origins of Islamic terrorism, particularly the Salafist movement, which is behind ISIS today. My third book is Black Terror, White Soldiers, Islam History, Islam, Fascism, and the New Age, which builds on my findings in the first book and talks about the history of fascism in the 20th century, the links of Nazism with the occult, the UFO phenomenon, and all kinds of stuff. So those 3 books sort of cover they sort of cover portions of history. The Dying God really covers everything from ancient times until about the French Revolution. The last 2 books cover pretty much everything until the rise of the neoconservative movement. And my latest book is what is going on right now.
All right.
So
basically, what you described is going on right now.
Yeah, well, it's part of what's going on right now. So, yes, the ISIS and so on and so forth is part of what's happening. But another important trend that's happening is what's called transhumanism. And so, the larger project at stake is the creation of artificial intelligence. And this has all kinds of occult ramifications and totalitarian ramifications, which is what really they're up to. So what's happening in Syria is really just a portion of the larger scheme, and transhumanism fits into that larger scheme, basically the New World Order. So as I mentioned to you...
Fantastic. Well, first of all, I want you to know my computer got a battery. I see a light for the first time in a while. Now, what you're talking about is really very, very much my interest. That's, just so you know that. You're not here by accident. By the way, you have to pardon me today. I have a cold and my tongue is swollen and it's all over Florida. Now let's go back to what is happening today with Islam and transhumanism and everything I'm doing without notes.
Yeah, no problem. So as I mentioned in my email, is that there's a direct connection between transhumanism and Sabbatianism.
And what is the connection?
The connection is Isaac Luria. So,
all right, you have to explain that to me and my ignorant listeners. What is that?
So Isaac Luria is the founder of what's called the New Kabbalah. And so Kabbalah itself is a mystical tradition of Judaism that goes back to the first centuries BC. It had many variations over time, but it underwent a very important transformation, first in the 13th century, and then a second in the 1500s by Isaac Luria, who was an important rabbi, mystical Catholic rabbi, who lived in Palestine.
I know the man.
Yeah. So he basically incepted an occult interpretation of history that regarded human history as progress, as evolving towards some endpoint, and really that endpoint is the redemption or the coming of the Messiah. So this idea is the idea that became fundamental first of all, to the mission of Shabbatai Zvi, and then the Sabbatean movement.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I believe he was anti-messianic. He believed in the opposite of a Messiah. But okay, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, it's a well-established fact that Shabbatai Zvi was one of the first important manifestations of Luria's influence. And the other one, and this is what I deal with in my book, Black Terror, White Soldiers, is that the Sabbatean movement was actually a creation of this Rosicrucian movement. And the Rosicrucian movement was also an expression of the influence of Isaac Luria.
Once again, the Rosicrucians, who were they?
So the Rosicrucians, basically, there's controversy as to whether or not an actual order existed. So it's more a label that can be used for an occult movement that began in the early 1600s. And it came on the scene with the publication of two what are called manifestos, the Rosicrucian manifestos, in around 1619. I can't remember the exact dates. And they're basically mystical tracts full of Kabbalistic ideas and concepts. And the true source of the two sources of the movement were two people. It was John Dee, who was the astrologer to Queen Elizabeth I, and Francis Bacon, who is also simultaneously regarded as basically the founder of the scientific method in the West. And that's no coincidence.
You're saying the explorer Francis Bacon?
No, the scientist Francis Bacon.
Okay, gotcha. All righty. Now, I'm doing my best to follow this step by step.
Okay.
What's step one? What's step two? How is Luria related to Rosicrucians, related to Sabbateans? It's a little tough for me.
Okay.
And I'll bet you I'm not alone.
No, sure. So basically, Isaac Luria's thought was interpreted by a German philosopher Christian mystic named Jacob Boehme. And his influence was pivotal. So the first place where he exercised his influence was in the Rosicrucian text. So Jacob Boehme, his mentor was a man named Balthasar Walter. And Balthasar Walter had actually traveled to Palestine to study under the students of Isaac Luria. So that's the direct connection with Luria's philosophy. So again, the Rosicrucians took an apocalyptic idea, or what's called millenarianism, where their predictions of the end times, and they believe that the Messiah would appear in 1666. So there's an excellent article by Richard Popkin, which if anybody wants to read it, which details, he's the expert on the expert scholar on the whole.
But since it didn't appear in 1666, weren't people disappointed?
Well, that's what they were doing, is they were fanning the flames, fanning the enthusiasm for this, because they began with these expressions in the early 1600s, and there were various dates proposed, but the one that was most commonly agreed upon was 1666. So that happens to be the year that Shabbatai Zvi declared his.
Oh, really? Oh, you're right. It is, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. How did he know that? Look, they were far apart. Distances were not, overland in those days.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's a modern prejudice, right? The world communicated far better than we can imagine in our time, even without telephones. So there were people who were primarily responsible for communicating news of Shabbatai's mission among the Amsterdam Jews. So one of the most important characters was Peter Serrarius in particular. So Peter Serrarius was really the main connection between Sabbatean movement and the Rosicrucians. Because there's a whole circle of Rosicrucians they're called the Hartlib Circle. They were centered around a man named Samuel Hartlib. And that also included John Dury and Comenius. There was another famous Rosicrucian.
Really? Khomeini?
Comenius. No, not Khomeini. Comenius.
Which Khomeini?
Comenius. He was he's sort of a famous reformer of education from the 1600s.
Well, you got to help me. And by the way, I'm not alone. I assure you about that. All right. So Khomeini he was a Jew?
Comenius, not Khomeini. Comenius.
Comenius. They were Jews?
Well, they were probably secret Jews, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the story gets more intriguing. All right, now...
one of the main goals of their mission, because really their leader was Manasseh ben Israel, who was what was his position and title? The leading rabbi of Amsterdam. So their main goal was to allow the re-entry of the Jews into England, which is something that had been forbidden since the 1200s. And in fact, the Jews had been barred from the Jews had been expelled from most of the countries of Europe beginning in the early 1300s, beginning with England. So they were working. In fact, they were conspiring, particularly with Oliver Cromwell, to overthrow Charles I. And then once Cromwell was in power, one of his first acts was to repeal the law that prevented Jews from entering England.
And how is this connected? All right, I'm doing my best here. You've got a book, and it sounds like a very interesting one. And by the way, my friend for many, many years, Rabbi Marvin Antelman, would be very interested in your work.
Yeah, it would have been great to contact him, because his work has been important to mine.
Oh, my goodness.
It's through his work that I first ever got the clue about the importance of Sabbatianism.
Holy moly. This world is so small, by the way, just so you know. Folks, this is David Livingstone. He was highly influenced by my friend Rabbi Antelman and wrote this very profound book. Look, I'm trying my best to follow it, okay? All right, we're off to the Rosicrucians and the Communists. Where are they? Who are they?
The Rosicrucians?
Both of them.
Yeah,
Were they connected?
To what, sorry?
To each other.
The Rosicrucians, this is what I'm suggesting, is the Rosicrucians were responsible for bringing about the mission of Sabbatai Zevi.
Okay. All right. See, folks, we did. How, by the way?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how, because those details are probably going to be pretty obscure and difficult to find. But what's clear is that all the people who are responsible for developing enthusiasm for the year 1666 also happened to be the first people who were responsible for spreading the news of Sabbatai's announcement. So, like I said, you know, the circles who were the key circles who were involved in spreading the news of Sabbatai Zevi's mission were Rosicrucians, particularly this man.
Holy cow. By the way, folks, I wrote, and it's at lulu.com, LULU.com, Shabtai Zvi, Labor Zionism, and the Holocaust. I actually wrote that book. Oh, my. Did you happen to read it?
Yeah, I didn't read the whole thing, to be honest, Barry.
Oh, I wish you would. I think I got it right. It took us all the way to the Holocaust.
Right. Yeah, maybe I
All
should.
right.
I've read most of your articles online about Sabbatianism, so I think Deutsche Devils was one of yours, wasn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is without Rabbi Ankelman, there is no way I would have developed the interest. No way.
Exactly.
He spurred me on, and by the way, it took, I swear, 20 years of him phoning every single week, telling me what was really happening in Israel, till I caught on that maybe he was right. It took that long.
Yeah. I agree. So Sabbatianism is really the answer. So from Sabbatianism, from the Rosicrucians and Sabbatianism, you get the Illuminati.
You forgot the Frankists.
Well, yeah. So basically, out of the next
100 years later arose the Frankists.
Right. So the next important Sabbatian movement was the Frankists, and according to Rabbi Antelman, the Rothschilds were Frankists and responsible for the founding of the Illuminati, which was an evolution of Rosicrucianism. Yes.
My rabbi, I'm so proud of him. All right. Look, he was trying to tell me about a different world. It was just too different, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe not for you.
Maybe not.
Eventually I got to it, all right?
Yeah.
I'm slow.
The true history is the history of not the true history, but a significant component of history is the influence of occult societies. And the problem is that scholars have been shy to deal with it because they didn't want to be treated as crackpots, so they basically ignored it. But that doesn't mean that the influence wasn't substantial. So fortunately now what's happening is there are a number of scholars with decent credibility who are starting to write about the influence of the occult, and it's crucial. So that's why
certainly on Judaism, I'm not sure it's crucial on everyone else.
Pardon? Oh yes, I mean this is why you can't really understand the history of Europe without understanding the role and influence of these secret societies. It was formative.
All I can say once again on Judaism, it wiped out our people. It spurred on horrible violence. Awful history. All right, yep. Your turn. Away, enough of me.
Yeah, so basically, Isaac Luria introduced the whole idea of human history as an intellectual evolution. So this is something now that people so take for granted because it's so much become a part of our perception of the West perception of reality. But the idea of progress itself, the fact that the notion that human society could evolve over time, is actually a Kabbalistic idea. So there's a book, I can't remember who's the author, but it's called The History of the Idea of Progress, if anybody's interested in the details. But the whole idea of progress was promoted by various members, scholars and intellectuals who were all members of the Illuminati.
Oh my. People, I've been writing about this, and I've been roundly mocked, but look, here's a very, very bright guy, and you're not going to mock him. There, I said it.
Thanks. So basically, what Luria originally suggested is that.
We have a short break. Thank God we're on. And we have a lovely show. We're really very suited to each other mentally, I got to tell you. We come back in 3 minutes, and I have no notes in front of me, so you wing it for the next half hour of the show. Wing it strong, will you?
Perfect, we'll do.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Hey, everybody. Well, this show, I'm on the phone because my computer ran out of battery. I hope it gets repaired. Now, we've got a very special guest because he's so similar to the way I was brought up, the people I was around. I'm not even sure I wanted to be friends with Rabbi Marvin Antelman. He wanted me. What can you say? I entered his world. David, continue with Rosicrucians.
Okay. So what I was going to say is that first of all, if we go back to Isaac Luria, he's the one who introduced the idea. This is a Kabbalistic idea that when God created man, he was actually creating another of himself. So, except that in the beginning, man had no idea. He was completely ignorant that he was an other of God or was God himself. So history is the evolution of man coming to know that he is God. So how this translates is that over time, man begins by worshiping objects outside of himself, like stones or rocks, mountains, clouds, birds, until he identifies gods and starts worshiping big gods, or may even he discover the worship of God himself, but he will, quote unquote, falsely regard it as as an entity outside of himself until the point when he finally recognizes that he is God and that he makes his own rules. So this is the basis of the Enlightenment. So this is how the Enlightenment,
really,
which was
everybody's,
the European Enlightenment, the Age of Reason.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
This is how the Illuminati, which was a Sabbatean organization, exercised its influence in the West by bringing about the rise of secularism. Because according to this Kabbalistic interpretation of history, human history is the evolution towards secularism. It's the evolution towards the point when man finally rejects any idea of a God outside of himself. And this is what the whole idea of the Age of Reason is. It's a rejection of Scripture. It's the rejection of the idea that man should in any way be dependent on any outside force. That he can he can determine for himself.
Any man, we're all equal that way?
Well, not to the Illuminati, no.
Okay.
To the Illuminati, the only ones, this is what Nietzsche called the Superman, right? Who goes beyond good and evil. The Superman is the man who can turn his back on all morality, all morality that's been, in his mind, contrived by human beings. So that includes Christianity, Judaism, Islam, pretty much any religion, and make right his own future, make his own laws. That to Nietzsche is the Superman. That's the concept of the Enlightenment, and this is why the Enlightenment is behind the creation of the United States, which is the separation based on the separation of church and state.
All right, that's a major claim here. You're saying it wasn't created by people wanting independence? By the way, pardon my tongue tonight. It's swollen. Are you saying America didn't fight for its independence from being a colony?
The United States was founded by Rosicrucians. So
I know a lot of them were Freemasons.
They were Rosicrucians first. The Freemasons came later. So the leader, I can't remember his first name, Brewster, his last name was Brewster, the leader of the Mayflower journey or voyage was a Rosicrucian. He was responsible for publishing various Rosicrucian tracts. So the first thing that the Mayflower did was first they went to Leyden to pick up a number of passengers, and Leyden just happened to be the headquarters of the Rosicrucian movement at the time. This was the year 1620. This is the same year that the Rosicrucians had lost their attempted coup for power in Prague, or largely by the Protestant movement centered in Germany. They left Leyden, then they went to England, picked up another bunch of passengers, and then finally went to England. The other one is that there's most of the other founders, like William Penn, who was the founder of Pennsylvania, as well as John Winthrop, who was another important founder of a number of New England colonies. These guys were all part of the Rosicrucian circle that I was talking to you about later that was connected with the Sabbatean movement, particularly the Hartlib circle.
Which circle?
Pardon?
Which circle? I'm sorry. My tongue is not good tonight. It's swollen. But what circle?
It's called the Hartlib circle. Hartlib. Hartlib. Named after Samuel Hartlib.
What did one do in this circle?
It was just a network of intellectuals. It's just basically a network of Rosicrucians.
All men?
Pardon?
All men?
Yes, all men.
There's
a few women. The important woman was Queen Christina. So Queen Christina was basically part of a conspiracy with. This is something that's been verified recently by a document that was recently discovered that shows that she was part of a conspiracy along with Manasseh ben Israel, who I said was basically the leader of this Rosicrucian network, as well as Isaac Laperriere, and they had formulated a plot to effectively create, even in their own words, something equivalent to a New World Order. So Queen Christina, when she heard news, this is the famous story, is that when she heard the news of Sabbatai Zevi's announcement, she was dancing in the streets.
What street was this?
She's the Queen Christina of Sweden.
Sweden?
Sweden, yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Sweden had was another very important center of occult influence, particularly eventually through Swedenborg, who was another important influence, Sabbatian influence.
He was a philosopher. I'm aware of that. I didn't realize he was influenced by Shabtai Tzvi.
Yeah, I mean, because at the time, the most important personality, just prior to the Frankist movement, was Samuel Jacob Falk, who was known as the Baal Shem of London. So he was a very prominent Kabbalist. He was also basically sort of the secret leader of the Masons, and he influenced just about anybody who was anybody in the period. So that includes Swedenborg, Saint Germain, the Count Saint Germain, Cagliostro, and if I'm saying that correctly, I think Saint Martin.
Well, this is very very profound history.
Yeah.
Not all of these names are known. Well, widely.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that, once you start to explore these people, you discover that their connections are apparent. And in fact, this entire story is apparent. They're all open connections between these people, and what they taught is open. The problem is that it's not taught. And what's curious is that most of the leading books, scholarly, like the best scholarly works of our time, happen to deal with these subjects, and also happen to be published by E.J. Brill, which is based in Leiden, in Holland, which also happens to be the former Rosicrucian stronghold. So basically, we have modern-day Rosicrucians who are secretly the leading scholars of our time.
Well, I mean, they could live in the same city.
Yeah, but no. You look at books like Marcia Keith Schuchard's book. Her books are fantastic. She has the most important book on Sabbatianism and its connections to Freemasonry. It's called Restoring the Temple Vision. I mean, this is exceptional scholarship. This is not, bedtime reading in any sense. And it's not your average nonfiction book. This is truly, the best kind of scholarship that I know of that's available today. And her focus is on the Sabbatian movement and Freemasonry. And like I said, Richard Popkin is another example. He's the one who explored the influence of the millenarians. But all
right, hold on. Not so quick. Who are the millenarians?
So the millenarians is the Hartlib Circle. They're the ones who were building the enthusiasm for the year 1666. They had millenarian expectations. They had, it was predictions of...
And what happened when these expectations weren't met?
Well, they were met, right? First thing that happened is that Sabbatai Zevi did declare himself Messiah in 1666.
That's true. And that's true far away in Gaza, but okay.
Right? Or it doesn't matter, because half of the world's Jewish population believed...
Yeah, I know. I know this.
So that's Jews from England to Iran.
I know this. I don't know how it got there. My theory was always the Vatican. It was the only organization with a worldwide reach to spread it. But
well, if anything, it would have maybe have been the Jesuits, who were also crypto-Jews.
First of all, the Jesuits were part of the Vatican. I believe by then they were inducted.
Yeah,
maybe but it had to be worldwide to get to every Jew from Iran to Mexico. You had to have a worldwide organization.
But you remember the Jews were already worldwide as well, too, right? They already had extensive connections. They were trading in the Caribbean, right? This is what made Holland so influential at the time. They were an international commercial power.
Still, to convince the entire people to accept a new Messiah in Gaza, I mean that's you have to be good.
Yeah, it depends on how you. I mean, Gershom Scholem has a theory that it was really the Spanish Inquisition that set the stage for his acceptance. It was the trauma of the Spanish Inquisition sort of created that.
That was 150 years before.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's not a long time. So he created kind of disposition as sort of it was like a trauma that really created a.
I'd say the Jews were fearful of staying in any place for too long, but would that cause them to find this guy in Gaza as their new Messiah? They did. I mean, half the world's Jews.
Yeah. So, I mean, half the world's Jews, but not half of them, most of those abandoned the ideas soon after
he converted to Islam, right. It was finished. Right. Everywhere but Turkey. That's where the...
everywhere but Turkey and Poland.
Poland, too?
Yeah. Which is where Jacob Frank was from.
Okay.
So Jacob Frank was studying with the Turkish Domine, and he declared himself reincarnation. In fact, there's numerous purported successors of Sabbatai Zevi. Rabbi Antelman found he mentioned in his book what's referred to as a list of ordination of successors of Sabbatai Zevi, and there's a number of them. One of the most important ones is Rabbi Ebershitz.
I don't know who he is.
Yeah, he's one of the most important rabbis of the 1800s. He was involved in what's called the Ebershitz controversy. So he was a very well-respected rabbi, but then it came to be that he was suspected of being a secret Sabbatian, and it ended up being true. The next important one, who's listed as a successor of Sabbatai Zevi, is Moses Mendelssohn.
Okay, he was a major philosopher. He spread his ideas around successfully.
He's also considered one of the founders of Zionism and, most importantly, secular Judaism. And that's the secret.
Okay. That's starting to make some sense, as a matter of fact. I'll have to... Boy, I wish I was young and had a youthful mind like yours, and I'd go researching all over again. That sounds real plausible.
Yeah. Well, it's in Rabbi Antelman's book.
Rabbi Antelman was he was a very nice, likable, friendly guy. I trusted every word he said.
Right. So it's all detail there. So when we talk about
every Thursday evening, there would be Rabbi Antelman for years on end. It was very close. Also with his daughter somewhat, but with him it was very close. He had three daughters and a son. The daughters were all really good looking. That's all I remember.
Yeah, so
enough of Rabbi Antelman. There's my memories. What you're talking about is Mendelssohn now, the influence on Jewish philosophy, which was apparently profound. I guess that's where modern Zionism would have arisen, at least partly in England.
Yeah, exactly. But back to the idea transhumanism,
Right.
which is what we're living in today. So another important Kabbalistic idea is the golem. The golem is
All right. It's hell, right? It's kind of
Pardon?
heck. It's between hell and earth.
No, it's a being.
A mystical being between hell and earth.
It's a being that's brought to life through magical means. So.
All right. Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. So the person who was purportedly responsible for creating one was Rabbi Lowe of Prague. Who's all so. So this idea now becomes crucial. Basically, to jump ahead, transhumanism is the modern face of MK Ultra, and all of this begins with a movement called cybernetics that emerged, I believe, in the 40s, if I'm not getting that right, 40s or 50s. It was a project that was sponsored by the Josiah Macy Foundation, which was a CIA front. And the goal was to create artificial intelligence, but ultimately as well to develop means of population control. So the founder of cybernetics is a scientist, MIT professor named Norbert Wiener. And Norbert Wiener wrote a book called God and Golem. And this book, like I mentioned, has a picture of the all-seeing eye, the same all-seeing eye that's on the back of the American dollar bill. And what he is saying...
He's promoting the dollar?
No. Artificial intelligence is a CIA project to create the all-seeing eye of the dollar bill. The internet is a CIA project to create the ultimate surveillance tool, which is supposed to be the all-seeing eye of Providence, the all-seeing eye of the dollar, the Illuminati all-seeing eye. So Norbert Wiener, he compares the development of artificial intelligence to the Kabbalistic legend of the golem, because for them this is the end point of Luria's evolution, Isaac Luria's concept of evolution. That the end point of history...
people have to get your book. This is way too complicated and interesting. Now tell them how to get it.
Thanks. So my latest book is called Transhumanism, The History of a Dangerous Idea. And you can get that and information about all my books, my recent books, all my books on my website, which is conspiracyschool.com. I also have links on my website to my Facebook page where I post regularly, and you'll see all of that on my website. Again, conspiracyschool.com.
I hope you got. If not, we are archived for 1 week. Go and listen to it again. So, in short, you're saying nothing we believe in is, from our choosing?
Unless you believe in the Bible and the Quran and, some legitimate scripture, then no.
Oh, all right. So your book, in short, I assume you're exposing people doing bad things to other people.
That's exactly it.
Folks, I think you might like David Livingstone, like the explorer, and you can find him, I guess. All right. Once again, we have people that we found very close to us, very in common. I had no idea Rabbi Antelman had this effect. He would be very happy to know it.
That would have been great. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet him or discuss with him.
He died at 89.
Yeah.
In as much as human life is what it is, that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
I just view it, he was very disappointed by by the state of Israel, not by Israel, but by the political state of it. He was very disappointed in it. Let's just say his daughters all grew up to be proud Jewesses, and he was a proud Jew, but he wasn't proud of the way the state was formed or run. That's all. Just spat it out. No, away you go. You get the end of the show. It's all yours.
I was just going to say that basically what Norbert Wiener, transhumanism, MKUltra, CIA, Illuminati, in our day and age, what they're doing is what they see is the fulfillment of Isaac Luria's Kabbalah is not just when man creates God, but when man becomes God by emulating God, and the closest way to emulate God is by creating life. So they see the creation of artificial intelligence as creating life itself. And
that would be way in the future.
That moment in history.
Isaac Luria was 300 years before that.
Of course, but I'm saying, this is how it's been interpreted today. This is why I say that Wiener's book is named God and Gollum. That yes, those ideas were developed long before, but they continue to have their influence, and this is how they are consciously interpreted today. They believe that the internet will become God. And this is not my speculation. I can show you citations that show that this is precisely what they are suggesting. They believe that the internet, by merging with artificial intelligence, will become God. That it will basically be omniscient because it will have access to the totality of human knowledge. They'll be able to peer into everything, and yes, that'll become God. And that this is what Ray Kurzweil, who's the head of engineering at Google, calls the singularity, and that is fundamentally the major mission of the transhumanist movement.
All right, these are major. I'm sure I've got listeners who would want to read you. And remember, folks, like the explorer Livingstone, David Livingstone, you'll track him down. All right, that's a major claim, and I have problems with that, in that it's becoming a very overcrowded world, and there have to be solutions one way or another. We just got 9 billion people coming along. It's really not healthy for us. A lot of them are just unwanted.
Yeah, there's lots of room in the world.
Well, again, we either face the problem. Oh my goodness, we had just about the beginning of a really good debate here. David, that was a really fine hour. I'm glad you came on board, and I think we got through on my phone, and thank you. Till next time.
Thanks for having me, Mary.
Bye, all.